everybody feeling fine. There ain't no business like show business, baby. Show
time.
It is show time. We're
And we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna have a good time, each and every one.
Tell me, when you first got the script for the Kennedys, what inspired you to get involved with that project?
Well, I loved it because, first of all, it started in 1900 and spanned to 1968. So that was the first project I think I'd ever been called about that spanned so many decades. Ultimately, we cut out the 1900 part, but it started in the 20s and then moved forward after that.
I think there are a number of different types of cameras and camera styles that were used. Did you have to collaborate closely with David Moxness, who was the cinematographer? Did you work really closely with him to kind of create something that really held up on the different cameras?
Oh yeah, well usually there's a lot of discussion with the DOP, and he was very sort of easy to sort of collaborate with. I mean, there was nothing massively complicated about the shooting, so I mean, for me it was often. I shouldn't say that on his behalf. I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of conflict, but as far as the type of lighting vis-a-vis the wardrobe,
right.
It wasn't really there wasn't a huge need to sort of do massive coordinating. But certainly, I would check for certain scenes to find out how they were going to be lit, if it was going to be dark or full daylight or that type of thing, because it wasn't always evident in the script, or sometimes it would take place in one place and end up being shot somewhere else. So these kind of things were important for me to know about.
And with the historical accuracy, I'm sure there was complications because there are photos, a lot that are black and white, but also those that are in color, and probably finding the right types of colors in today's fabrics did that pose any sort of challenge for you?
Well, it was really funny. I was at International Silks and Woolens shopping for this show, and I was laughing to myself because I was thinking, in 20 years I'm probably going to be dressing people in upholstery fabric, because it felt like there was quite a bit that I could actually use to duplicate the fabrics of the 60s, but it's getting a lot harder. Like every decade it's getting harder and harder. I mean, 10 years ago, 40s and 50s I was having no problem with, and now it's getting a lot harder to find those textures and those colors. And I mean, you always end up dyeing and like dyeing fabric and modifying things, but no, for this it wasn't. I mean, I was really pleased because it was a surprise. Even men's suitings are changing. I mean, they were a lot heavier back then. Super fine wools and that type of thing don't hang the same way. So, but often you'll get a fabric, that if it's not quite right, if it's too light, but it's the right color and the right type of fabric, you can fuse it or line it or do something to reinforce it, so it actually has the same structure ultimately. So we employ as many tricks as we can to try and maintain the integrity of the original.
And actually, speaking of the research, where did you get a lot of your research and do a lot of your research for?
All over the place. I mean, I've been collecting old magazines for a long time, so I have quite a store of my own. And then the internet is like just an unbelievable resource that none of us can imagine living without now that we've had it. And also as a team we were collecting, like we had a share Bible, and we basically all contributed, and so every department was adding, and it was mind-boggling how much visual we had.
Sure. And a last question, which character was your favorite one to dress?
To dress?
If you had one.
Well, of course Jackie was fun to dress. They all had their idiosyncrasies, even the man. So it was just really interesting, and the actors were also splendid to work with. I mean, I don't really ever think of that sort of in terms of who Sometimes I think of what my favorite costume was, and in that one there were a lot of costumes that I really liked, but there was one simple yet so not simple dress that was a Givenchy that Jackie wore, even though she started to employ all the Cassini once she was in the White House. She did still wear some of her old Chanel and some of her Givenchy that wasn't American made. And it was a very simple wool, sort of mid-dove gray dress with a sort of a wider neck, and just the line of it, the way it was shaped. It had a simple waist with a little bow. There's something about it that was just exquisite, and I think it was played in a very, very brief scene. But the way it came out when I opened out the bag, I just was so pleased with it, because it was not sort of a stunner by any means, but to me it was a work of art. It was my favorite costume. Nobody even know what it was.
We gotta